Good afternoon. It is April 29th, 2024. You're listening to A Little Column A, Little Column B, hosted by Will Limonos and co-hosted by Zach Bishop. How are you doing today, buddy?
What is going on, Will? We are through the second weekend of the NBA playoffs, and the Suns are the first team eliminated. I think if we had done a draft 2 weeks ago, I don't think that they would have been at the top of my list. I'm not even sure they would have been at the top half, but the way their schedule worked out, and they were swept, and it didn't even particularly look close.
It's a disappointment, and, it's not shocking at all that there's suddenly stories coming out of like, oh, Kevin Durant's not happy. Well, you know what? They just got swept. I don't think there's any story that should come out 24 hours after losing 4 in a row in the playoffs, of which was a massive disappointment in the first round. That anything positive going to come out? Like, what was Durant going to say? Like, you know what? I still believe in this team, and this coach was really utilizing me the right way. I'm sure if we had some more time together, we'll be better. It's like I'm astonished by the amount of people that are shocked that Kevin Durant has come out and said he was a little disappointed in the way he was used this year. It's like, well, it wasn't going well.
I think the issue is it's not just this one isolated incident. It's in the game yesterday. Beal's coming off the court, just completely ignores Vogel. There, along with the Durant story, there's also a sham story saying, basically, read between the lines that Vogel has lost the locker room already. So I don't think it's just the Durant part of it, and because I agree. What positive is going to come out of getting swept when you were a team that was supposed to be having finals at least aspirations? And so this is, it's not as far away as you can possibly get because you did make the playoffs and you avoided the play-in game, but that was still in the mix. But to add to it, I think it's because it's Durant. Durant got out of Oakland. Then he's on the Knicks, and then he's out of the Knicks, or not the Knicks, the Nets, and then just wondering, okay, this is just year one, but how much longer before he's out of here as well?
At some point, he has to take some responsibility. I mean, why didn't they win the series? Why didn't they win a game? Is it him? Is it Booker? Is it Beal was pretty bad?
I think it's because Grayson Allen got hurt, honestly.
I was going to argue that certainly didn't help in this game that they were eliminated, but throughout this year, Grayson was awesome. Like you'll be lucky to ever have this good of a year out of Grayson Allen again. And you had him at a bargain, and now you have him locked up over a couple of years. Like that's just something that went in your favor. I think we're looking at too many things today as like, oh, this went wrong, and if this hadn't happened, we would have done all this. I think a lot of things went their way this year, and it still didn't work. They still were barely even lucky to get into the playoffs.
They were pretty healthy. They were pretty healthy throughout the year, and you just can't have a max guy score single digits and just really not impact the game. And that's what happened with Bradley Beal. And it's not just this one game. It's just when it's so much money and for that production, and it's at the point now that we've said for a while. Like Chris Paul seems to come up almost every other year of, this is a horrible contract. You'll never be able to move this contract. Well, that's where the Beal contract got moved for. But I don't think you're able to even move Beal. Actually, you're not allowed to move Beal. He has a no-trade clause. So even if you were to waive that, I still don't think you were getting the requisite assets back. But we were talking about this at the beginning of the year, saying this team is incredibly top-heavy. I think we're talking about Grayson Allen, and I think 6 months ago would have been shocked saying, really? We think his injury really had an impact? But I think it does because after those top three, there is a significant drop-off, and there's just not a lot of depth on this team.
I mean, Nurkic was healthy. They got the Royce O'Neal signing they wanted so bad. They just – and then they're all out on Vogel. Like this wasn't a change they couldn't have made months ago. Like if this was so ongoing, why are we just hearing about it now? I mean, I feel like Durant's gotten his way sooner than this. It's just, I don't know. Maybe we're right. If you're all out on Vogel anyways, who cares? It's.
How did this happen so fast? The only thing that I think happened faster was it was Coach Griffin over in over in Milwaukee. That was midway through the year. It's not like Vogel has been around. It kind of feels like it because he was the coach of the Lakers, so he's just been around. The premier talent with LeBron, and then took last year he wasn't employed, so just like he's back in the mix, but he's like, oh no, we got to move on. Just how does this happen so quickly?
I think it's time to put more blame on Kevin Durant this time than any of the previous losses. There's a history. It's not great. I'm not going to go through every single loss in every single series, but there's a trend now where it's, hey, well, we have Kevin Durant. We have a chance. And it's like, yeah, you have a chance. I would say it's the greatest one, and that's something I don't think we would have said any of the past years. But at what point is that just true? I mean, I think this is on him. I mean, he wasn't able to make the difference in this game. I don't think there's probably a really short list of guys who could have made the difference in this game, and we'll talk about the credit that Minnesota's going to get. But this is his fault. I feel like he got everything he wanted. It still wasn't good enough, and this isn't the first time he's gotten everything he wanted and it didn't work out. So maybe it's time that he's almost like Belichick at this point, where, hey, Bill, you're a great coach, but this drafting thing, this GM thing, stay out of it. It's just not your skill set. You have great intentions and your ideas, in theory, could work, but you need to stay out of this. You need to just be a player. And I'm not telling him to just shut up and dribble, but he needs to stay out of this GM stuff, because every time he partners up with something, every time he demands out, it just feels like it never works out. It's a complete failure basically from every destination after Golden State here.
And talk about a little bit of a perfect storm here, where he gets to Phoenix right when Ishbia is buying the team. So you have Durant, who's pulling the strings, and then you have new owner, and you have the Bill Simmons joke about the new owner syndrome, where, I mean, it kind of was. It wasn't all the way, because you did get rid of Chris Paul, who older, was hurt this year anyway, but even if he was healthy, I think a point guard could have helped, but I don't think he was going to make a huge difference. But just like, we can get Bradley Beal, the guy that plays for the Wizards. Well, I've heard he's really good. He can score. Like, yeah, let's get him on the team.
All right, enough, Suns. Let's give credit where credit is due.
Can we just do one final point on this? That this is their team. Beal has a no trade clause unless Durant or Booker demand to trade out, and if they do, they're not going to get very good assets. But Durant hasn't made it past the second round since before the pandemic. But for the next 2 years after this year, Durant, Beal, Booker, Nurkic, you got Nasir Little, and then you got team options on David Roddy. So they don't really even have very many picks. Either. Like, they don't even control. I think they don't control their first round pick until 2031, and I think they don't have their pick or a second round pick also for a few years. So you can't even package some picks together to try to get some salary space or bring in some young guys. So this is the team, and they're gonna have to figure it out. And I just don't think that getting a different coach in there is really going to move the needle that much.
How about this too? We're just stay on this for a second. The era of, I think, guys going to join Kevin Durant is over. I think that window is closed, because there's a long list of other teams I think you'd rather go to at this point. Like, what? It's kind of like where LeBron's ended up at this point, where it's like, well, who's crawling over there at this point versus walking to any other team that's got a way better chance? He's not top tier anymore of we have to go play with this guy. This would be incredible. I think that's really hurting him. I think he was counting on other teams and other players just kind of walking in. He got Eric Gordon. That was a nice signing. I thought they got him for a really good deal, but
that was so weird. There just seemed to be that fit just didn't work out.
I don't know what the right fit for Eric Gordon is, and maybe that's a little bit more on him, but I was disappointed.
Remember,
I thought it was a huge signing.
Right before the All-Star break, he just went home and was just nah, I just need a break, and it was just ooh, that's not good.
I don't know how they're going to fix this team. I think it's going to be very similar to what we've seen out of the Lakers after they won their championship. Of they let the wrong guys go, they made too many aggressive trades because they were cornered in a position of weakness, and they made one deal after another, and it's just you're just trying to catch up, and you're never going to catch up. And I don't see an easy out for them. And not to mention, everyone's going to be a year older after this and making a ton of money. And
yeah, Booker is still young, but Beal is a smaller guard, so I think he is going to age a little bit faster, and seems like he might already. And Durant is 35 this year. You're getting past 35. I think his game can age decently, But when you're getting paid the absolute max, you have to be the number one.
Look, the tables have turned really fast. You look at the team they lost to and the age that they have, and you look at the team that had the 1 seed this year in Oklahoma City, what, an average age of 24, 25? I mean, that's
yeah.
So you're telling me that this team is going to add and make some moves with none of the moves that they really have able to make, and that all the younger guys are going to get worse, and these guys are going to stay where they're at?
They're going to be in a tough spot because next year they got some cheaper contracts. It's player options, but Akoji, Eric Gordon, Damian Lee, you got Eubanks on a cheap contract. But even with those, you don't have a full roster, and you're going to be over the second apron. Now, I'd be lying to you if I told you I exactly explained how the second apron works, and I could go through it. It's a newer rule in the past couple of years, basically to prevent what the Warriors did. But I do know that if you go over the second apron, things get extra difficult. Where it used to be, okay, you're over, the salary cap, that's cool. You do a mid-level exception. There are different rules here and there. You do this. But if you're over the second apron, they want to make it really hard on you to say, hey, you need to make this fair for the rest of the league, and you can't just way outspend everybody. So I don't know what little tricks that they're gonna be able to make, and that's for next year. Then the year after, they're again over the what was probably going to be the apron, and that's with only 6 guys. That's not enough guys for a basketball team.
No.
They're in trouble.
No. And even if it was, look at the 6 guys in Minnesota that you're going to have that are probably still going to be there, that are also going to be still under contract. It's just, I like the potential outcome of so many other teams going forward than anything that Phoenix can do, and that they just keep going to the same well. That I think it's an aged formula at this point of what they tried to do. Clearly, you're going to need some youth out there, and obviously you need some good big men as well. I think that's what I'm seeing trending of the teams that have had successful playoffs this year. I don't think it's going to change that much going forward over the next couple of years, but this just seems like it's not going to ever work. So let's talk about something that is working in Minnesota.
Ooh,
and
boy.
How unfair is Anthony Edwards? That seems like a cheat code. This superstar has taken the step. I messaged you yesterday. I never would have thought he was this close to being a finished product, and I don't think he still is. I think he's still going to get better, and that is a scary thing because he has done everything. The willpower, the aggressiveness, the scoring, the dunking, the defense, the trash talk. He's a good teammate. I just think if you're a Minnesota fan, how excited can you be about this? This is everything you ever wished. The Gobert trade's working out. I mean, Conley's still playing.
We hated the Gobert trade last year. I think you still really hate it, and I mean it's going to burn them. I think farther down the line when you don't have those picks. But the way this year went, I think you guys started talking about how, hey, was it an overpay? Probably, but it seems to be working out. And the way that Ant is just jumping up, just real young, not even on his rookie extension yet. Oof, oh boy, 40 points on the road in a closeout game.
I think
that's a day.
I think Rudy is a really good pairing for what they needed on this team, though. It's awesome defense. It doesn't take away a lot of shots. I think he's proven veteran who's I think desperate enough to really still be competitive and really want to still get out there. It's a good pairing, and Karl Anthony Towns and Naz Reid, whatever that combination is, it's a little unpredictable and that can be frustrating. But I think you're generally going to get a plus outcome out of that, and that's a huge difference maker. We haven't even talked about Jaden McDaniels, who's doing everything as well. I didn't think he was going to be this good. We'd see flashes. He showed up against the Celtics this year and totally kicked our ass. But these are the playoffs. This is against Kevin Durant. This is against Devin Booker. Like these are guys that are proven and older than them, getting their ass kicked by young guys. Tables have turned. It is a clean sweep. 4-0. What do they got? A week off now? I mean, where does this go from here?
And you mentioned it yesterday, saying if the Suns don't have a serious lead at halftime, I don't think they're going to be able to pull this out. And I agreed with you like immediately, and just like caught myself like, how crazy is that to think that the team that doesn't have Kevin Durant and doesn't have Devin Booker, you think are just like they're in a way better spot. And it was a close game, and then Suns had some terrible execution. We could talk about that, some of the terrible late game execution down the stretch of teams, but it was almost like they didn't. Like they were cool with going to Cancun, where it was, we're gonna give a little bit of an effort here, but you know what? Let's just call it. That ant dunk was awesome, where Durant he blew right by Beal. There was no screen, there was nothing. He just said, "I am faster, I'm stronger than you," and then Durant didn't go up all the way, but it was pretty much at least a partial poster, and just very fun. Kind of jump out of your seat. It was getting towards the end of the night, and I was not expecting that sort of excitement.
There's a new ceiling that this team has reached. I think Denver was easily the favorite and probably still should be the favorite, but 4-0 clean sweep. We mentioned all the problems with Phoenix. I still think this is a really big win. Is Minnesota actually jumping Denver in your mind, or are they competing with this at least, or is this just closer than we ever thought? Is anything changed at all with that? Or we still like Denver?
Well, I think the main thing that has changed is that if Jamal Murray is hurt, where he's questionable for tonight, has been kind of banged up. So if he's actually hurt and misses a game, or you could just see out there that it's just like, oh, this is not quite right, they can throw some guys at him and make things difficult. I still think that it's almost a Mahomes situation where it's just like, well, until I see Joker start to bleed, I just don't know. I don't think I could pick against him. But did you hear some of the Timberwolves and some of the Minnesota sort of facts?
No, what do you mean facts? What do you got?
So this was the first series that the Minnesota Timberwolves have won since 2004. So you're thinking that's Kevin Garnett. So legitimately 20 years ago, as well as that is the first major Minnesota sports sweep. Now, obviously, there's no sweeps in football, but I was pretty surprised that there was no other sweeps in Minnesota, like all of their sports histories. This was the first one.
That's wild. I mean, who's keeping count of this thing? That seems like a terrible thing to be tracking. Like I guess it's not going to happen this year again, guys. Ooh.
Your whole city. This is the first sweep.
Let me ask you: think they can get more than one this year?
I don't think so.
I think they got a chance. There's a chance
they're going to have. They have Denver next. Do you think they could sweep Denver?
Oh no, I didn't realize that Denver next. That's right. They finished
right because OKC's number one.
That's right. I still can't. I haven't accepted OKC as a 1 seed.
That last half a week of the season just really threw everything. Where it's like, oh right, the Knicks are the 2 seed.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, I just blanked on that. OKC taking care of business and sneaking at 1 there. I forgot they are 3. So yeah, we'll be Denver next. Look, they're gonna get a week off if Murray doesn't go today, and the Lakers have played very well. I think in all 4 games, they could have easily won any of them. There's a ridiculous stat that. What are they led like 75% of that series, and they're still down?
Oh, really?
I think the Lakers, if you're like the amount of time that they've been up and the amount of time Denver's been up, it's like 75% Lakers, and they still only have 1 win, and it was a hell of a win, and they're down 3-1 still, and they've led 75% of the minutes the Lakers have been up in that series. It's like ridiculous, but. So if Murray's out and they extend that series, that's only going to help Minnesota if Denver's got to tack on a couple extra games here and they're just sitting at home, resting up, working on whatever they got to work on, just watching film and prepping. So it's good for them. They took care of business. I think there was a little fear in me that they ended up with the Suns, and boy, was I wrong with that. That was a mistake.
I thought this was going to be one of the ones that went 7. It was just going to be, just great punches getting thrown, and the Suns just did not have any of the firepower that I guess I should have picked up on throughout the season, but just thought, all right, if anybody can turn it up at least a little bit and make some games competitive and make this go to at least 6, it would be the Suns. But it feels a lot more like the year in Brooklyn for KD when the Celtics swept him. Of just everyone thought, with Kyrie, like this is going to be exciting, and well, it was fun for Celtics fans, but that was just quick sweep.
Well, it was an awesome past couple of days of basketball. I'm exhausted when all 4 games had something that mattered and something that happened, and it was at different fluctuating times of like, all right, it's a blowout, and then we're back in it, and then we're not in it, and then
you have to remember too. On Friday, they started the first game early. They didn't do the NBA TV. I thought that was pretty cool.
No complaints from me. 5:30 was totally.
Just start the first game at 5:30.
I'm fine with that. I don't think anyone else in any of the other time zones is super happy with that. But you know what? I'm not super happy with staying up till 1:30 every night either. So deal with it. Like that's not cool with me. This isn't cool with you. Let's even it out a little bit. I just it's
I'm a big fan of the barely any overlap. Like the overlap only kind of happens by accident if one game goes a little bit late and you're 2 minutes into the next game. But you for sure you do get burned if there's a blowout. But we've been saying this over and over again. There is so much content at your fingertips. If there's a blowout, you can switch over. You can keep an eye on it. But I like you can watch as much of it as possible, and it's not. Sometimes like tonight where you have the NBA TV game that's on in between, and you miss stuff.
It's not great. All right, we got to run through a couple more series here. We can't take nearly as much time on each one. So let's get through this one quick. Bucks Pacers 3-1 Pacers. They're so bad at defense. They're so bad, and they're gonna win this series, but they are so bad at defense. I just want to make sure everyone understands how bad this team is at defense. There's no Dame. There's no Giannis. Bobby Portis gets ejected almost immediately in this game.
So fast.
The Draymond role model thing for Bobby right now is not a good thing. That's not a good trend. This was not a game he needed to be. There's never a game you should get ejected in, but this one, you're down those two guys. You're clearly needed today, like more than your usual role, to just get thrown. Awful. I'm sick of this series. I'm almost happy that the Milwaukee just take a break. We'll worry about it all in the offseason. This is a wrap, right? We're done? Keep it moving. What else you got?
Yeah. I mean, I think even if Giannis and Dame come back, Pacers only need to win one at this point. And boy, is this rough for Bucks fans. Where last year, you think, all right, we're in the mix. We're going to get a chance, and they for sure won their championship. But the past 2 years, Giannis gets hurt in both of them, and then this Dame gets hurt. Where you think, all right, if we at least have Dame, we should be able to take care of the Pacers. Or like you said, not a lot of defense getting played there, and you're looking at like the names of the guys that are playing in this crucial playoff game, and it makes sense why there's not enough guys. There's not enough guys, and I think people are going to rope this in to all of the other Doc Rivers playoff failures, which I think is going to be silly. But in a few years, it all gets lumped together. But these are two major injuries. I don't know what team is able to win missing two of their top guys, except maybe the Heat, which are just zombies, and there might be some black magic going on there. But that second half, once they got Doc in there, they had problems, and I think it's going to be easy to just look and say, hey, Giannis and Dame, they were hurt. We're good. We're going to run this team back, but they might need to make some tweaks to make sure that they are in a better situation than they were this year.
I kind of feel bad for Middleton. He's actually played all right.
And then he went out of the game for a little bit. It was like, you got to be kidding me. This team is absolutely falling apart.
I just think the entire beginning of the year was like, all right, well, we got to get Middleton back. He really hasn't been that great, and Dame and Giannis have both had good games. It's been up and down. As long as Middleton's here, we can really make a difference. And now he's the only one there, and I feel like there's just no winning for him. Now he's the guy, and it's like, well, this isn't the role I spent the entire year trying to be now. Now I have the ball in my hand all the time, and Bobby Portis is getting ejected. It sucks. It sucks. I don't know what to tell you. Injuries aren't fun, and this wasn't a fun year for Milwaukee, so maybe it's just better we just wrap it up and send them home. There's going to be plenty to talk about all offseason. I'm sure that it is not going to be a quiet team. All right, next.
They're not in nearly as bad a situation as the Suns, but they also don't have a lot of wiggle room. But I think that their guys are younger and they have a deeper team, but they are also gonna need to get creative with the roster.
All right, next game: Clippers Mavericks. Tied 2-2. Comeback City, the Kyrie show has never been any better. I think you could argue that this past game was maybe better than anything he did in Cleveland.
That double clutch over three guys in crunch time, I've watched it, and it's just one of those replays that you know what's going to happen, and you're still not sure how the physics of it worked. Just unbelievable.
And yet, it wasn't enough. And it was a tight game. After a huge blowout has started a huge comeback, this actually turned into a pretty good game, and it closed out tight. No Kawhi Leonard. More shockingly was who closed it out. James Harden. Unstoppable at the end. Just getting the floaters. Dallas defense has no answer. I wish they'd maybe tried putting in one of the big guys they traded for this year, and just to have another view at this, because it just seemed like you could get around one guy, throw that little floater, and get it done. But that wasn't even the biggest shot. The Kyrie layup wasn't even the biggest shot. The Paul George step back corner three. Whew. I mean,
hand in his face. You can't play better defense than that. And in the corner, a step back in the corner, that is so technically difficult. Any sort of step back, but just specifically in that corner, there's not a lot of room. You step out of bounds, you look like an idiot.
The not stepping out, I think, is underrated of how challenging it was. And then, not to mention, he's behind the backboard. It's over the backboard from the angle it is, and he hits it. And as well as if they had missed that was it. If they had missed that, I feel like they would have lost the game. That shot was such a momentum that they needed so desperately to just save this game.
The Clippers have been missing that shot for 50 years.
Big time. And Harden himself, I think, has been missing these sort of games all the time, especially these moments.
Yeah.
So good for them. It's 2-2 right now. I can't say I trust either team as much based on the consistency. I do think that the Clippers are, at this point, better off with whatever Kawhi Leonard has to offer. That didn't look great. He didn't look right. Say whatever you want about, like, he's cleared to play, but he doesn't feel right. If he's not going to be Kawhi out there, it's fine. Just don't force him out there. I think there's a balance between playing injured and a balance to being helpful for this team, and I think they're better off without him at this point. Are you in agreement with that, or?
I think if he can go, you got to send him out there. But I think we should mention how last week on this podcast we talked about Kawhi, and you kind of cut me off and were just like, we don't know what he's doing. The team doesn't know it. No one knows what he's doing except for him. And then, of course, he plays the next game and then doesn't play in this one. So I think it's a complete toss-up if he's going to play or not going to play. And then even if he does, what level he's going to be at. It's just a complete mystery. I cannot believe that the Clippers, they blew a 31-point lead. The Dallas took the lead briefly, and then I'm not sure I've ever seen a team after blowing the lead actually get the composure back together to close it out. And I think Harden has to take a lot of credit for it, because he's for sure taken a lot of the blame when this has gone wrong. And if it had gone poorly, I think they would have. But yeah, I'm liking this series. Not a lot of tied up series. So I think this one, if this one goes the distance, might be the only basketball we get for a little bit.
Who you got? I'm thinking it's going 7. Who you got?
I'm going to stick with Dallas, with the Duke guys.
I think it'll be Dallas too, but if Paul George and Harden are going to close games like that, that's what you have to do. That's what it's going to take. It's going to take a miracle step back in the corner, and it's going to take an unstoppable force from Harden, who's just going to be driving. Just really impressive basketball. And Kyrie, out of his mind, just everywhere. All the scoring.
Yeah.
Luka's knee not looking so great. I think that's something you got to keep track of. But I do think Kyrie, if he's going to play like this, can handle the workload. I don't know if it'll be so successful in later rounds if they are able to advance, but I think against this matchup, against the Clippers, he can still be really, really good and be the true number one with whatever Luke is able to offer on the side. All right, we're both going with Dallas on that one, but we'll keep an eye on Harden, man. I think this Kawhi summer was a big deal, but if Harden's going to be like this, they still have a chance. They just need him to actually be consistent.
Yep, and that's been the problem.
All right, next game, probably the best series. I know that one's tied up, and this one's a 3-1, but New York-Philly has had an intensity and a battle of aggressiveness, and it's guys getting elbowed and physicality. Tons of points. 47 for Brunson in this past one. Embiid, I think, had, 50 in the one before that.
He had 50, yeah.
Probably should have gotten ejected out of that one.
Do you think he should have been ejected?
I think if it's any other game, he's ejected, and I think if it's actually the other way around, what did he pulled on Mitchell. If Mitchell was on the ground and pulled on Embiid, I think we're tossing Mitchell too. I just think it's that sort of like we don't touch these sort of level guys, and I do. I think it was a mistake, but I'm happy he wasn't because I got a great game. I've got some great series out of it, and it's just again we're getting close to that Draymond line where it's like, all right, it's not quite okay, but I want to kind of still see what happens, and I don't know what's going to happen in all this one. I think Philly could have easily won any of the 4 games. They're, like I said, down 3-1. I still think they can win this. I still think Philly's going to win this in 7. Am I crazy for that? Like, why do you think New York's going to win?
The Garden is going to be just crazy for Game 5, where they can close it out. They have not had much playoff success, and I'm not sure if you're aware, but the Rangers are also doing well. And I just think that in general, the city is just feeling it. They love Brunson. They love this team. And I think they're going to get a chance. And Embiid is definitely, you mentioned, hey, probably should have been ejected. Has got all sorts of health things going on at the moment, but it's kind of turning into a little bit of the villain, especially from New York's perspective. So I think they want to give him a little extra on the way out. So I think the Knicks are going to take care of this. I think it's tomorrow night, real quick.
I don't think they can. I think if Mitchell's out and all the pressure's on Hartenstein to guard whatever zombie Embiid's left at this point is a problem. I mean, what he got 5 fouls in one quarter, the third quarter last game. I mean, and then And then I like Precious Achiuwa. I like him. I'm not trying to take anything away from him as a successful big man in this league. I think this is a thrown-in part of the deal that has benefited New York so much. But he can't guard Embiid. Like, he's just nowhere near the size of that. It's a terrible matchup for him. So if you're telling me,
I think that the team is just not deep enough, and that Embiid always runs out of gas by the fourth quarter. And it wasn't just him, but that execution down the stretch, it was poor. I don't blame him for not taking that baseline jumper, because I think he was open. He could have taken it, but I think he saw an opening at the hoop and thought he was just going to be able to get a layup. So I have no problem with that. But I just don't. How in a playoff game are you not aware that your team is going to miss on purpose? You had Lowry. With the classic Lowry grift, and then he had an amazing missed shot. And Maxey is just asleep at the switch. One of the fastest guys. Somebody that could actually get to a loose ball. It gets knocked around. Maxey, will be up at the top of the list. Well, one of the fastest guys, and just wasn't even paying attention. Just how can you not be on the same page? So that's why I think that the Knicks are just going to continue to just crush the Sixers and just wear them down. That Thibodeau of you just get more and more frustrated with these guys that are, kneeing you and elbowing you and bumping you. And I think at some point it's just the Sixers are just going to crumble.
Maybe. I'm still taking Philly in 7. I think there's a massive mismatch.
Crazy.
I think there's a massive mismatch for Embiid. I don't think you realize how much Hartenstein's going to struggle. How much they're
even with Embiid, where he's got the injury that from before, and now he's got Bell's palsy, like his eye doesn't work, and just other stuff.
I still think he has a massive advantage, and the Knicks have advantages everywhere else with their effort, and they're definitely a deeper roster, and they got some good shooting. But let's see Deuce McBride hit some big shots in some tighter games here. Right, game 1 was great. That home is great, but we crank up the intensity a little bit. I mean, this whole game, it felt like it was a one-possession game, like it was the last possession the whole time. Like everybody seemed nervous, extra stiff and tight. It was awesome intensity, and I just think that's going to get cranked up, and that's not going to turn down.
You're right. The Knicks definitely had some trouble down the stretch as well. Brunson had 2 pretty bad turnovers. I probably wouldn't call them unforced, but I mean lately forced probably is accurate. But yeah, that's a good way of putting it. That there was a good stretch down the end where it just seemed like both sides were tight and very nervous.
Which was fine. It was super fun to watch, but it was film. If you go back and watch that, is not going to look good. That was like, hey, why did we do that? It was like, I don't know, man. My mind was a million things going on. The crowd's roaring. Both teams are exhausted at this point. They know how important it is, which this game was the game. This could easily be 2-2. This could be 3-1 Philly. This could be 4. This could be a whole bunch of things. this game was everything. This delivered. This whole series is delivered. I'm glad to watch them. I hope Embiid's able to stay healthy and finish this all out because I think he can still take care of business here. And if he doesn't, I'm happy for the Knicks. It's been a hell of a run with Brunson. I don't know what else to say other than I think he's becoming a little predictable of being undersized, and I don't understand why you can't slow him down. But I don't know if there's a formula or if there's a guy on Philly that you could throw at him. But I think forcing him a little bit more, leaving Hart open, forcing other guys. I think there's an opportunity for Philly. I'm going to look like an idiot when this gets wrapped up to, was it tonight? No, tomorrow, right?
I think it's tomorrow.
I hope it goes 7. I want to see it go 7. Also,
that would be fun. Game 7 at the Garden. I'm hearing that cheapest ticket to get in tomorrow is over $1,000.
I don't want to talk about tickets. I don't want to talk about New York fans at Philly. I don't think it's that far-fetched that it's that far of an area. It happens. It's going to always happen. I don't know what to say. I think I'm much more concerned that Buddy Hield didn't even play. He's just done. He's out. He's out of the rotation. What happened with this? Like, I thought this was supposed to be an addition. How did we end up losing Buddy Hield too? We lost James Harden. We lost Ben Simmons. We lost all these other things. Were losses. This was supposed to be an addition. Like, how does this keep happening?
I don't know what to tell you. I mean, last week we said, hey, he's out there. He's got to be shooting. I don't know if there's an injury or something, but I feel like for a while it's always been you need to space the floor with shooters. Buddy Hield thought he was a shooter. Give Embiid some space. They can't double team him. They gotta respect the shooters. But yeah, now he's at not playing at all. Coach's decision.
Especially when I see them going scoring slumps and like Tobias is kind of weird and weak at times. It's like, can we just have like if Buddy could just come in and just hit a 3, I don't know, maybe once a half. Like even just that would it be such a boost that they just don't have. Especially be able to score off the dribble. It's just a little relief off of any of the miracles that Maxey and Embiid are trying to pull off every possession would go so far. Next game. Anything else for you?
No, I agree. Where it's like Lowry, who like I feel like wasn't really even playing that much on Miami, and I thought he was really done. Is like he's playing like a full starter's minutes, and there's no other options. So
they got a good campaign game. To be honest with you, campaign hit some shots. Like that was a miracle. Like how was that happening? And Buddy Hield can't get in.
I wonder if there's an injury or something because. The logic doesn't line up there.
All right, next series, Lakers, Nuggets, 3-1 Nuggets. They avoid the sweep. It was close. It felt like destiny was just going to happen again where I think the Lakers have been up at half every half this series. I mentioned earlier how the minutes they've been leading like most of the series. And Denver just crawls back at the end and laughs in your face and just steals wins. And they almost got it. I mean, I think they've got some really good LeBron and some really good Davis games. And they're able to hold on one more. You mentioned a Jamal Murray injury. How much is Denver going to be nervous at all? I mean, I know you're some Mr. Anti-Laker here, but is there any chance for the Lakers here at all?
I don't think so. I think it's just been this way the whole year that LeBron's been healthy, AD's been healthy. They've both been playing well. It's just you need a full team. And they don't have the rest of the guys that are able to step up. And I think that Denver let this one get away, but now they're going back to Denver, and I think that they're going to squash them.
I hate to do these hypotheticals, but I think Denver's really good, and I think this Laker team's good. It's just they're looking bad against a really good Denver team. How many other teams in the playoffs think the Lakers would beat?
Well, the Suns did not look good, so I think they could beat the Suns. Pelicans without Zion, they could beat them. So 2.
What about in the East? I mean, it's like over half the East, right?
I mean, there's a reason that the Lakers weren't great this year. I think they could, they take care of the Heat, the Cavs, and the Magic. I have no idea what's going on there, so I think I'd give them a chance just having LeBron and just almost like an experienced adult in the room could work out there. I guess the Lakers could beat the Bucks right now. We're missing Giannis and Dame.
I think they'd beat the Clippers and the Mavericks. I really do. I think they've played really good defense. It's just Denver's really good.
Denver's really good.
Denver's really good. And they were going to go into this year being like LeBron lost to them, what was it, like 12 times in a row. They finally got one win, didn't get swept, but basically did. And they're going to feel like they're really far off. And maybe they were coming into all this, but I kind of don't think they were. I think they've really made a good series. It's going to be a silly argument to say.
They had to play in the play-in game.
I think at the end of the season,
if they're a better team, they could have avoided Denver.
If Denver wins it all, we were going to be saying the Lakers might have challenged Denver harder than anyone else. I still think we're going to be saying something like that. I think they're going to clean. Oh, my
goodness.
I think they're going to clean house so much more.
You sound like the Lakers fans from last year. Oh, yeah, we played Denver. We played them the toughest. Like, you got swept. Oh, we played them really tough. It's like, cool. All right.
I think the defensive games.
Is there a spot in the record book for that?
The defensive games.
Are we going to do that again this year?
The defensive games you're getting out of Davis, I think, would have struggled and given everyone else such a hard time that I don't know how Jokic is so unfazed by it. I think it would have dominated almost every other team in the league the last couple weeks. It's been really good. It's the sideshows of is Russell on or Russell off? Is Hachimura going to play, not play? It's a lot of the other things that I think are so distracting. Is Reeves going to hit a shot or is he not going to touch the ball? I don't know. Taurean Prince has been up and down. I think it's a little bit more blame on all of them, but they've had really good Davis games, and I think Davis has been a really good player.
It's good. He is a really good player, and it's just in the past it's been injuries that have just prevented him from being able to be this guy.
All right, without Murray, you think they're going to close it out in 5, or is this going to go any farther?
I think they'll win tonight at home with or without Murray.
I think they kind of have to actually. If Murray's going to need time to rest, just wrap it up. We don't need to try to put more weight on Jokic and make him have to really try and win one more game 3 more times. All right, next series. Boston, Miami. Boston is up 2-1. We finally learned how to play defense and maybe pressure a team that doesn't have any idea what they're doing out there because it's on to the 7th man and whoever else is left. I'm happy we took care of business. Are we on the right track? Was it all just a false alarm? We looked terrible in that one game, and it's back on track. Are we okay? Can I relax a little bit on this team?
I wouldn't relax. It's the Heat. There's zombies and there's black magic, and after the first quarter and then going into halftime, it's like, all right, well they're shooting 52% from 3. They're not going to continue to do that in the second half, and then they finish the game shooting like 55 or 56%, and it seemed to be scheme related. That we were in drop coverage, and it was like daring them to shoot. It almost seemed like a little bit of the not maybe as in your face, but a little bit of when Draymond came out and said, "Yeah, we just decided we weren't going to guard Jalen from 3 and just let him shoot." And then Jalen's like, "All right, cool. I'm a max player. I can make threes, especially when you're not guarding me." And it seems like it just happened over and over again. And anytime we even got a little bit close, they would just hit another 3, and it was frustrating because I felt like on offense, we were the ones where it was the complete opposite in game 1 of we were taking these very tough mid-range 2s when it seemed like if you kind of pushed the issue, you got right to the hoop. And they were like almost fine with letting that happen. And then they were just raining the 3. So I just don't know what adjustments Spoelstra has lined up for game 4 tonight. I think we talked about it before the series started that the only way Miami can win is if they just get like these ultra awesome math games where they just hit a bunch of 3s. And just seems like, well, let's just make sure they don't do that. And hopefully we learned a lesson from game 2. I'm happy that we're up 2-1 and not down 2-1, but I don't know exactly what team's going to show up. The team that knows what they're doing or the team that just I think thought they could just waltz in at home and get a win. There's some crazy stat like 9 of the last 12 games have been won by the away team in this series. It's just so goofy, and I just hope that we come out like we did in game 1, and then really after maybe like the first 2 minutes in game 3, and just the game was never a doubt.
How many games is it going to take to close out the Heat?
6.
Yeah, that's what I think. I don't think I would love to do it in 5. I would love to do it in 5. It'd be great. I just don't trust this team enough. I don't trust this team enough, and if we blow another game too, I'm already teetering where it was like I don't think we have any chance against Denver. I'm looking way too far ahead, and now I'm thinking we got no chance against Minnesota. If Minnesota's going to do what they just did, I don't think we have an answer for that. I don't think there's a lot of teams that have answers for that. But Denver might be in trouble for all we know. But I was so discouraged by Boston not even being able to handle Miami and looking farther ahead of what other teams are doing and the efforts that they're going through. We should get, if we don't at least make the finals, this is a massive disappointment. So like I'm stressed about it because we just don't take certain games seriously, and we're fully capable of doing it. And as long as we stay focused, there's no reason to really worry. But I worry because, man, our focus it's just not reliable.
And I think we can get away with it against the Heat with no Jimmy Butler. But when you're looking to make a serious run, you can't have these lapses. You got to be precision. You got to be locked in. I mentioned Maxey falling asleep at the end of the game. It's like you need to be just ready to go. You need to know all of the possibilities and you know what the defensive assignments are. And what I was glad about in Game 3, where Porzingis really struggled in Game 2, where there seemed to be a stretch in the second half where he wasn't in, and it's like, shoot, did I miss an injury on Porzingis? But right from the start of the game, he was much more aggressive, and just really hope that can continue.
Anything else for the Celtics?
I like all the stuff that Derek White's doing. I think he really is he's really the X factor on the team, and I just like getting that put back, just little stuff like that Derek White just continues to do, and so looking forward to that continuing. And let's get a W in Miami tonight, and then let's shorten this up. Let's win at home. Let's get a little bit of rest before we gotta play the next team. Let's stop messing around. Let's end this, because that Game 2, there's just so much baggage from last year, just playing the Heat so many times in the playoffs, and I just knew it was going to be rough on all the Ringer podcasts, just all over, and just all the stuff. Everybody loves to see the Celtics struggle, especially against the zombie Heat, and yeah, I don't even want this to be entertained as a long series. I want this just over.
All right, next series. Speaking of over, Thunder over Pelicans. They're up 3-0. This is over. I think everyone's been a little over complimentary of what OKC's been doing. Right? They've had some really good shooting. They have so much depth. They're so young. But I think this has so much to do with the worst, hardest offense to watch in the New Orleans Pelicans. I couldn't tell you what they're good at. I don't know what they try to do. I just see misery offensively get turned into even less effort defensively. This is a team that is at a point where they can't run this back next year. This needs to be changed, and we could spend as much time as you want talking about OKC, but I think this reflects far more the disappointment of the Pelicans, and not even just with the injuries, even with Zion. This is a mess. Like, I don't know what the organization's trying to do, but it's not working. What would you do? Would you do anything differently, or is this just a lot more of that the Thunder are way, way better?
I think that is definitely a main part of it. There's a reason that they're the 1 seed and the Pelicans are the 8 seed. I think Ingram's coming off an injury. I think he has been playing better the past couple of games. I think it's tough when you lose Zion. It was in the play in, so you think you're going to have a guy, and so you're kind of on the fly trying to change things. And I agree with you that something has to be different next year. I think they have just like a collection of good talent, but just like it's just not all the way working. But then you have these injuries where Zion was pretty healthy this year until the playoffs, where Ingram was the one that was injured this year, and other guys. And so I don't even really know if you know what you have. So I think it's gonna be tricky to say, okay, we know we were weak at this position. Let's try to strengthen it. I don't really know if you know what you have.
I'm happy for OKC. That's really all I got to say. I'm happy they're advancing. I'm excited to see what they're going to look like in the next round. And, man, how how much trouble is the rest of the league in if this young team continues to have the success they're having? I mean, they finished as a 1 seed this year. And I know the writing's been on the wall for years, with all the draft picks, and they still have a bunch of draft picks. But at some point, like I mentioned, Anthony Edwards kind of coming into full form and being like, I never thought he'd reach this so fast. I never thought this team would reach this so fast. Like, this is this is borderline like a real contender at this point. Like I thought it was cute and everything, but like I don't see how you can't take this team seriously, especially when you look at the depth of some of these other teams. We were talking about top heavy Phoenix. Compare that to the Thunder. They got like 12 guys on this team that would start on Phoenix. Like that's incredible, and we'll see where it goes. I mean, what do you think their ceiling is though? Like, can they go a little bit farther than one more round? Like, do you like them over Minnesota or Denver yet? Are they at least in that conversation? Are we still shutting that one down?
I think it's going to be a good test, whether it's against the Mavericks or against the Clippers, just because both of those teams are older and a little more experienced, have had the playoff experience. So I think the next round really going to find out, because I agree with you. I think this has a lot more to do with the Pelicans just struggling here, and then to go against, and this will be the initial test of, okay, you guys were young, you were a good regular season team. All right, now you're going to go where the guy playing defense on you knows like everything about you, has been planning, knows everything, and you're going to have to deal with it for game after game after game and find out, was it not that the regular season was a fluke, but I think that playoff basketball is more physical and it's different, and normally it's the younger team that is not ready for it and can get pushed around, especially a team like this that is just like incredibly young.
I think the Thunder have done a really good job defining everyone's role, and everyone's done a good job living up to those roles and not really trying to overtake anyone else's. It's great the contributions they get from everyone. I think it's something a team like the next matchup here, Orlando, has really struggled with, where when it works, it looks great, but there are too many moments where I watch this series and it just looks like a young team that's just not there yet. That like clearly there's something there, and when it does work, it looks good, but it's not consistent, it's not reliable, and they're just a year away, maybe even more. I don't know how OKC was managed to jump that step so fast, and what Orlando's struggling with, because the Cavs have been a mess. Like, they haven't scored over 100 points. They can't run this back either next year. If I'm Cleveland, I think this is peak to this awful middle ground of like, we're not really competitors, we're not bottom of the barrel, we're just right in between, and there are teams above us that are going to attract way more free agents, way more interesting pieces of trade assets than we're ever going to be able to compete being where we're at. So it's a sloppy matchup, but I look at the Thunder and I'm just constantly impressed, because this is kind of what they should look like. They should look like Orlando, right? Like, that's what a first-time playoff team looks like. And I don't know how you fix that with Orlando other than just time. But who do you like in that matchup? Cleveland or Orlando? It's tied 2-2. On days it looks like that.
Every game has been an absolute blowout. A low-scoring blowout. Yeah, the Cavs have not gotten over 100 points, and they definitely trend more on the defensive side themselves. But I think it really is more of a testament to the Magic, where they were, up there with the Knicks of, we're just gonna make your life miserable tonight. Like, you thought, all right, you're coming down to Florida and this is gonna be fun. No, it is not gonna be fun. So this one is, I feel like I have the hardest to get a grasp on, because there's been no major injuries, and just whoever's been at home has just destroyed the team on the away bench. So I'm just biased. Orlando has won the last two at home, so it feels like they're better, but that's only because they won the last two.
They did not look good in the first two either. And Mitchell looked like the best player on the floor, like by far. I thought it took Orlando a little bit of time to wake up in those first two games. But it's nice to see them bounce back and at least make a series out of all this. I wish I could say this has been fun to watch, like you said, though. It's 2-2. There's a chance it goes 7, and there hasn't been one single good game out of all these 4 games. Not one.
Nope.
So,
I joked a couple weeks ago how this was going to be the NBA TV game, and how I was like, oh, when those are on, you miss them because they're on while the other games are on. But these ones have been, let me check in on the NBA TV game. Oh, it's a 15-point game. All right, I'll keep an eye on it later. Nope. Blowout and rock fight.
All right, you got Orlando in how many?
I am going to go Orlando in 6.
So you think, oh, man, all right, so they're going to do like a clean sweep after going down 0-2. I think it has to go 7 at this point.
I just think that because if they're going to do it, they got to do it at home.
No, I think they'll do it on the road. I'll take Orlando in 7. I mean, the Cavs at this point. I think the Cavs, if they wanted this, they really could take it. But I think it's more important to the Magic to get it than is the Cavs. I mean, if the Cavs get it, it's what are we going to celebrate? All right, we got out of the first round. Next year, we'll build off of this. It's like I don't think there's that feeling anymore. There's not a good vibe test on that bench at this point. I think they're totally a team that's going to lose in 7. I mean, they're not going to get swept 4 in a row here because I don't think Orlando's that good. But I'll take Orlando on the road in 7. I think it'll be all right. All right, that's it for basketball. There was
can I just say one more thing on the basketball about OKC? I was pulling it up. It took me a little too long, but we're mentioning how young OKC is. But remember, they made these crazy trades for all these future first round picks. Those are still coming in, and for like a while. Like they're gonna have a lottery pick this year coming from the Rockets, unless the Rockets get really lucky and jump into the top 3. And that's just not in 2024. It's like I don't even want to go through it because it would take another 20 minutes for me to go through each pick. So they're almost like the reverse Suns, where the Suns have no picks, they're locked in. OKC is young. These guys should only be getting better, and if those guys don't, they're going to have more reinforcements coming in or plenty of picks to trade for somebody that they want to add to the team.
Like they did the veteran thing. I mean, Hayward's playing a little bit. That's every time I see him, I'm still kind of like, oh yeah, that's right. I was like,
right. He's just kind of out there for cardio.
He really
He's not really
is.
putting up many stats.
It really is. It's great to see him though, and it was certainly nice to see Isaiah Thomas at least on a roster this year. Hopefully, he can continue that contract on. But all right, let's move on to the NFL draft. I know you're on a little time constraint here, so we got like 2 stories to get to. We have the wacky Atlanta offseason of, all right, we're going to get Kirk Cousins. We're going to give him more money than anyone else. We're going to sign him to 4 years, some odd $100+ million, and then we'll go into the draft and we'll get him some help because we're a win-now team. And the last couple of years, we've spent early first-round draft picks on offense, whether it was Drake London or the running back I'm blanking on, or Kyle Pitts the year before all that. Who's the running back? I'm blanking on Atlanta. He had a huge year, rookie last year.
I can only think of Drake London, and that's the wide receiver, and that's not right. But
I'm not in NFL mind yet. All right,
I'm not yet.
It's been turned off for the offseason, all right, after a successful fantasy year. But they also go offense at their number 8 pick this year, and they take a quarterback who arguably wasn't even the best quarterback on the board, and probably could have been picked a couple picks later. But if someone's got to play with you to do that, so. I don't know how to really explain this. If I was a team, it's like, all right, well, Kirk's gonna go for 2 years, and then we'll trade him, and then we'll start this guy. It's just, I think you always hope you could plan this far ahead, but this seems a little ambitious and a little questionable. Not to mention Kirk's coming off injury. I mean, he's even gonna play this year, and then what are you gonna do? Does this make any sense at all? Do you like any of these moves?
Not only did they pay Kirk Cousins, they gave Kirk Cousins $100 million guaranteed. That's not the fake number that comes first. That means if Kirk Cousins comes back and hurts himself or isn't able to come back because he's coming off of an Achilles injury and he's not the youngest guy, they still owe him that money. And a rookie contract for a first-round player is 4 years. So these guys are going to be under contract for the same number of years. Michael Penix is not. He's one of the older quarterbacks. So you would think older quarterback, he is going to start sooner. But it's like, well, wait a minute. We just brought in Kirk Cousins to do this, and they took him with the 8th pick. I'm pretty sure his over/under was something like, I think it was in like 30. So this was a guy that was flirting with the second round. So not only did you grab a quarterback, it seems like you grabbed him way earlier. Now that's what the gamblers put the line at. You're living the life. You have the job. Maybe you knew something. Maybe you got tricked by something. I don't know. But a wild move. The argument for it that I heard today was that there's been so many injuries, and with concussions, it's just like you can't have too many quarterbacks. But it just seems like to put this much capital into quarterbacks, when you can only play one of them, it just I don't know. But you got to remember, this is the same team that had 2 meetings with Bill Belichick and then said, greatest coach of all time, no thank you. So they are lining things up. And if this goes well, to just absolutely just middle fingers to the rest of the league, to all of us, say, we knew what was going on. You guys are the idiots. But if this does not go well, and it has not been going well for a while for Atlanta, it's already set up. It's already, the jokes have already written themselves. They're already so much in a hole that it's almost like the MLB uniforms, where before the season we brought up how it's like, yeah, the players hate them, like they're see-through, they don't match, they look cheap, and now we're not even to Memorial Day, and already the MLB has had to come out and go like, yeah, yep, those are messed up. Like I could see midway through this year, Atlanta have to go, yeah, we messed up. Maybe we should have got the greatest coach of all time, and maybe we should have just gone with one quarterback plan, like most teams do.
Certainly, there's a lot of injuries. All right, there's value in having a lot of quarterbacks. I see that. I think that was proven in the past couple of years that you might need somebody to get by for a couple games here and there. As well as I think we've seen so many teams invest in quarterbacks, and if they don't pan out in the next year or two, they move on to the next one. And there's this weird risk-reward of the draft where it's like, well, there's all these knowns about these guys that have been like a year or two and they haven't looked real great. But there's this unknown guy coming in that we have no proof of that maybe he'll be a lot better than this guy. And a lot of teams took that chance this year. There's a ton of quarterbacks drafted in the first round, and there's no way. No way all of them are good.
6 quarterbacks taken in the first 12 picks.
And there's no way they're all good, right? There's no way.
Oh, it's impossible. I think this is just showing that instead of getting better at evaluating quarterbacks, it just hasn't improved. So it's almost just like a shotgun strategy of, well, we know we need a quarterback. We don't really know how to figure it out. So we have to pick them early, because then if we don't pick them, other guys are going to pick them, and we need to find out really quickly. Is this the guy or is he not the guy? Because then we're going to be bad, and we're going to need to pick a quarterback again until we can get one that's at least average. And that seems to be very difficult in the modern NBA. Not NBA. Too much NBA today. In the modern NFL.
Bijan Robinson, running back.
Bijan Robinson, of course.
All right, you got 2 minutes. The Patriots did it. Went chalk. We got Drake May. No problems here. Everybody's okay. I feel like there's no real assessment right now because we're still going to be bad this year. But I think we had a good draft, and it's weird to say that because I still think we're going to be bad this year. But are you encouraged as a Patriot fan? Are we happy?
We need a quarterback. We need a quarterback for the future, so we had to take somebody. This, like you said, went exactly chalk. All right, I don't really know a ton about Drake May other than he's Luke May's little brother from UNC. I did like to try to support this. We did go almost all offense, just very heavy on the offense, where the defense, I would think, if we could keep that same level from last year, if we just have a competent offense, we're going to be in a lot more of these games. But did you hear any of the quotes from our second round pick, Jalen Polk?
I forgot it. You sent it to me. It was a real pump-up quote, too. It was a good one.
Yeah, so I don't have it in front of me, but just you basically said, I'm an exciting player. Get your popcorn ready. I make people in wheelchairs stand up. So it sounded like he was pretty upset that he lasted so long. So, I mean, I like that sort of cockiness from a wide receiver. And, there was always like a little bit of talk about maybe getting Marvin Harrison Jr. and just we've been swinging and missing in the Belichick era on wide receivers. So if we could just get somebody, and you figure a second round pick, 37th. So just outside the first round, you're really hoping a guy that can make a difference. So I hate getting excited about the draft. We were good for so long that we could laugh at all the other teams, but now we're the team that has to, put our hopes on this event in April. But still a long way to go, and just hard to get excited by names. Where it's not basketball, where this guy's gonna play immediately. You saw him play in college. It's part of a big machine, and we'll see what happens come training.
Plenty of time to assess, analyze, and digest all of this, but for the most part, I think I think we did what we had to do, and I'm not mad at anything yet. I mean,
Yep.
there wasn't a miracle move that was going to put us head and shoulders above anybody this year. There wasn't one move we could do for that. So we did what we could, and hopefully that's good enough, as well as that's what we did today. So thank you, as always, for listening. Little column A, little column B. Subscribe, Spotify, YouTube, and follow Zach on his X account, which is
Wicked Z-Man 24.
We'll be back next week. Go Seas.
Little column A, little column B.